Don't do it.
Do you want Cheryl to do it? Okay. All
No, that's-
right, welcome, everybody. Ms. Vashani, I ask you to read us out of closed, please.
Sure. I move that the Roanoke County School Board come out of closed session for the following: to discuss the acquisition of real property for a public purpose where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the school board pursuant to the real property exemption at 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Bajani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. All right, welcome to our January 19, 2023 meeting, our first regular meeting of the year. If I could have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Chairman, should I also read to certify our closed session?
You didn't catch that part?
Yes.
We didn't do that
You can
part.
go ahead and do that, too.
There
You
was no
seconded
action.
first. All right, so I also move to certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the school board.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Bajani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Item 4.01, announcement of changes in the agenda. Does everybody have a change request?
Mr. Chairman, there was no action for closed session.
No, there wasn't. Correct. Thank you, Mr. Ray. 4.02, approval agenda with announced changes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve agenda as presented.
I'll second that. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Bajani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Item 5.01, school spotlight, Glenvar Elementary School. Welcome, Mr. Matt Johnson. And Mrs. Hogan. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and Dr. Nicely. I'm excited this evening to welcome Mr. Matt Johnson, the principal of Glenvar Elementary, to come forward to share with you some information about his school.
Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Nicely and members of the board. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's not very often you get a chance to come and brag on your school, and this is really a neat opportunity. And I know it's important for y'all too. It's difficult. You have 27 schools in Roanoke County, so to try to come out and get tours of every single one of them and really see what's going on is difficult as a board member. So I think this is a really, really neat idea. So Glenvar Elementary, welcome. We are the home of the Grizzlies. Glenvar Elementary is situated on the Glenvar campus, and for those of you who are not in the know, it has the nickname of Highlander Heaven. And why do we get that name? Well, as you can see, we are unique. We are the only elementary school in the county that is situated on the same piece of property as the middle and high school that we feed into. And you can see from above there, that creates some unique situations for us that we try to leverage as often as we can. So why do they call it Highlander Heaven? All you need to do is take a look at those two pictures. Imagine, looking at your kids playing on the playground and seeing that as the backdrop. There's nothing better. And then at the front of the school, you got the view that I picture there with the flags too. So you see that background. It makes it a joy just to be in that environment, and to be learning and teaching and working in that environment is something special. It's something I treasure. So how do we leverage that? Just this school year, this is a picture of some Glenvar High School students who actually came down and worked with our second graders and taught a lesson on probability. They had created games for the kids to work through and games of chance, and they were able to factor the probability and figure that out. And all they had to do was walk down, no bus involved with those high school kids coming down. Just before this past winter break, we actually had our French and Spanish students come down and sing Christmas carols to our students as well. So again, just a walk to get there. So what does instruction look like at Glenvar Elementary School? These pictures say it all. It's student-centered, it's differentiated, collaborative, and engaging. You can see it's very hands-on with the types of materials they have on the table there. And that was a big push that I had when I came to Glenvar 5 years ago, was to increase the small group instruction. Went out and purchased a lot of the horseshoe tables to make that happen, and it's part of our culture now. So we focus on the 5 C's and STEM. So you can see from those pictures lots of different opportunities that we provide for the kids to dig into that deeper learning. So as I said, at Glenvar Elementary School, small group instruction is the norm. It's not the exception. We meet our students' needs on a more personal level that way, and it's something I take great pride in. We have lots of opportunities for enrichment. I just threw a couple of pictures there in. We just purchased the ukuleles for the music room. We have string trios come in and perform for the kids, and then we are able to leverage and get performances again. Yay. We just had our first one this year, back after the COVID break from those, and you can see the kids loved it. That was our Veterans Day program for our 4th graders there. So what is it like to teach at Glenvar Elementary School? There's no better way to answer that than to bring one of our own teachers up front here. So Mrs. Ann Franco is our library and media specialist, and she just made the jump from the high school and walked down the hill, and now she's working for us at the elementary school. So she can tell you what it's like in the Glenvar community and to teach at Glenvar Elementary School.
Good evening, Dr. Nicely and members of the board. Yes, so I did switch. It's a big switch from high school to elementary school, but it's kind of my dream job to have always been, I've always wanted to be a librarian. And I knew it would be great, and I knew I would love it. I had no idea how tremendous the staff, the camaraderie, administration, not just saying that because he's here, I promise. And just, it's been just a tremendous experience to see these teachers in action. I know what we do at the high school, we're really big into, just like we were, talking about, differentiation, authentic learning, collaboration, but to watch it with the staff at Glenvar Elementary, because they have just been so welcoming to me. I get to go into the classrooms. I'm already working with other teachers, creating lessons for them. They're very willing for me to come in, which, number one, that's huge, to be brand new and then just be welcomed like that. The second thing, though, that I've seen, just having taught for, 20-some years, is to watch the mastery of teaching that Glenvar Elementary School teachers perform. It blows my mind how they already are teaching authentic learning skills to elementary school students, just kind of autonomy and how to work in groups. And so that's a huge part of it, obviously, is just to kind of, I'm learning a lot, which is super fun for me from these teachers. Also, it is Highlander heaven, and it's nice to be in the foundation component of Highlander heaven to see why the middle school and the high school are as amazing as they are. And I've seen that firsthand because I worked there. But to see the foundation of Glenvar Elementary that's setting that up so perfectly. And the parents are just, wow. I feel like I have new friends. We've gone to dinner. My husband and I have gone to dinner with families that we've met or that I've met. So again, it's just that Glenvar pride and just family, and the students are tremendous. I get maybe 150 hugs a day, which is super awesome. So yeah, The other thing that I think is pretty impressive at Glenvar Elementary is the PBIS program, which I know about from the high school perspective, but Laura Bell is our assistant principal who is kind of the expert on that and keeps us steady. So I think Laura's going to come and speak about that. But thank you so much for having us and listening to us about Glenvar. We love it.
Good evening, Dr. Nicely, members of the board. I can't explain what is happening at Glenvar with PBIS. It's just great to watch and to see our students respond and our staff respond. It truly is amazing. Our Glenvar Grizzlies participate with PAWS, and they are pause-tastic at it. Yeah, I get the same reaction from kids sometimes. We participate positively, we act responsibly, we work and be safe, and we show respect. And so we are just kind of building that from the ground up. Our Glenvar students are acknowledged with the pause for behavior-specific praise by our staff. Students earn and track these pause, and when our goal is reached, then we get to celebrate in a school-wide reward. So we have currently already met our goal twice this year as a school, so our students are doing exactly what we are expecting them to do, and we are so proud of them for that. So they've got celebrated twice. We've had a PJ day, and we've also celebrated with a dance party. So we are super proud of our students for putting in that work. We are already currently at 90 pause into our third reward, and our Grizzly student voice team will get to choose what that next reward is. And if they pick the ice cream party, I'll be sure to send out some invitations so you guys can come and join us. I would like to brag just a little bit on our staff. Oh, I do it. Oh my. Which one? This one? You didn't? You got me. Thanks. It's always there for me. So I would like to brag on our staff just a little bit, just for some staff numbers. We were currently fully implemented as a Tier 1 school and started our Tier 2 implementation the fall of this year. So our Tier 1 team provides those strategies to teachers to promote positive behaviors in the classrooms, cafeteria, playground, halls, and bathrooms. We often refer to them as the cheerleaders of our school. They keep our positive motivation going. Our goal is for more than 80% of our students to successfully meet those Tier 1 supports and be successful. Our Tier 2 team has been implemented, and they provide suggestions to teachers for working with students that are having difficulty with behavior and just supporting those Tier 2 supports within our school. So just to give you a little bit of some data on those parts, our Glenvar staff is truly invested in our students' social and emotional growth, as well as their academic growth. Our Tier 1 inventory showed a growth from 37% to 83% in just 1 year. So we are very proud of our staff. They are truly putting in the work. Our Tier 2, which was implemented in September, has already reached 69% fidelity by November's walkthrough. That was a huge gain for us. Our staff is committed, and it shows. We feel confident we will continue to grow, reaching that 100% for Tier 1 and be ready for Tier 3 supports in the spring. We are working hard to put supports in place for all of our students, develop physically, emotionally, and intellectually in a safe environment to become opportunity ready. I am proud to be a part of the Glenvar team and to help them through their PBIS journey. So, thank you.
Next up, it is my pleasure to have one of our own fifth graders, Miss Sophie Arms, come forward. So Sophie, come on up here. She is going to tell you a little bit about what it's like to be a student at Glenvar Elementary School and what she enjoys about it. But I have to first say that this is a full circle moment because Sophie's dad I actually had as a fifth grade student. So it's really kind of like small world now to have his daughter up here as a fifth grader. So Grady, you never would have thought it would have been that way back in fifth grade, right? So, all right, Sophie, I'll let you take the mic.
Welcome, Sophie.
Hi, my name is Sophie Arms, and I'm a fifth grader at Glenvar Elementary. I started school at Glenvar in kindergarten, and it has been the best experience. Every day before classes start, we have morning announcements. This is very special to me because I get to help say the announcements a few times every week. I love that the staff at Glenvar includes us and allows us to help with those things. Mrs. Franco also lets us help her check out books for the younger students. These things really give us something to look forward to every day. I enjoy going to Glenvar because everyone that works there really shows that they want to help make every student a better one. They encourage us to be the best we can be and make good choices by allowing us to earn paws. They hang the paw awards in the school throughout the halls. It's a great reminder when we walk through the halls that we should be the best we can be, and for doing that, we even get rewarded with things like pajama day for the entire school. I enjoy learning at Glenvar because they always try to help make it fun. Mr. Fazell gives us a chance to earn what we call Fazell Bucks. This is pretend money that we can save and eventually cash in for things like eating lunch in the classroom with him and a few friends, which is my favorite thing to spend it on. Myself and others at the school love spending our recess time on the playground equipment. We are super excited for the new playground that you all let us have, so thank you so much. There is no doubt that we have the best teachers and staff at our school. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't walk through the halls and not get a hug from one of my old teachers or a smile and a good morning from Mr. Johnson and Miss Williams. They are always sure to start our day off happy. Their caring ways make me feel safe. I love so much about our school. It is definitely the best place to go to school, not just to learn, but to have fun while we're learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.
Wow, I don't know how I could follow that.
No kidding. That's true.
Yes, a huge thank you to the board for the movement on the playgrounds. Ours is coming along very quickly. It's almost finished. There are a couple parts on back order, so once those couple parts come in, we'll be wrapped up. So we're excited. Kids are just itching to play. So thank you very much for that. All right, so GES is an amazing place, and also we have an amazing PTA. I can't be up here and talk about GES without mentioning our PTA support. So some of our big kind of cultural things for the school come out of the PTA, and one of them is our Red Ribbon Week celebrations. The parents ask for those dress-up days well in advance, and they start preparing. And you can tell, as you can see, we had Superhero Day this year, so I bet you can see our superhero there with Captain America. We've had a PJ Day during those days, but also we had our favorite storybook character day. So that's what you see there in the middle. All right, so our VIP night was a huge success. It was one of our first big PTA events that we were able to have post-COVID. Mr. Hudson joined us that night. He was slinging pizzas and helping us to treat our parents and our grandparents as the VIPs. They were the very important person in the life of a child. And the kids gave the parents tours of the school because we were welcoming those parents back. They hadn't been in the building for a while. So having those parents back in the building, getting the tours, we had our book fair open. Miss Franco rocked her first book fair. And, just having that red carpet treatment. So it was a great night. We also fund a lot of our PTA events through our walkathon. We don't do a lot of sales promotion of selling things. We don't believe in that. So we promote we fundraise with our promoting fitness as well. I have to say our PTA provides probably the best field day in the county. It is amazing how many inflatables they have packed into our back play area. And, you can see even our fifth grade teachers are good sports with their fifth grade challenges. They also provide us snacks, believe it or not, and even whole meals sometimes. We even had a Cracker Barrel Thanksgiving dinner. So any other schools out there, we're kind of setting the bar at Glenvar, I'm just telling you. They also support instructional efforts. We purchased Reflex Math recently. They provide all kinds of enrichment materials for our STEM areas. They support staff members with purchasing classroom items. Glenvar is a great place to learn. It's a great place to be supported. But they also provide support for our fifth graders when they promote on to moving to middle school. And that was a big tradition at Glenvar. we managed to work through that even during the pandemic. We did a drive-through graduation. We did a socially distanced graduation using the entire home side of the football field for the fifth grade during 2021. And we made it back at the end of last year to be in our gym again. So just a great tradition that we have. And I have to tell you, I'd be remiss without recognizing some unsung heroes. Our schools are supported by people that many times we don't even know about, we are not aware of what's going on, but our school counselor, Sarah Williams, does an amazing job of leveraging things from our community. And, when you look at that list of folks up there who contribute things to Glenvar Elementary School, it's amazing. And I can't go through every single thing that these groups do, but, from providing Christmas gifts to families in need to providing food to family in need. We have two different church groups that send food weekly and monthly. It is just amazing how many service groups are out there that do things for our schools that people have no idea about because they do it quietly and they don't get the recognition. So I wanted to put their faces up there basically with their symbols to be able to say, we appreciate all they do. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes an entire community to raise 350 of them. And we also give back. We encourage a spirit of giving back to our community. Our kids bring in money donations. They bring in food donations. The community Christmas store we support, Thanksgiving food drive, the Soup for Seniors. And, our Kids Heart Challenge, which used to be Jump Rope for Heart. The last 5 years, Glenvar has raised $38,373 for the American Heart Association. I'm just really proud of that. That's something that's really cool. One more thing that I wanted to mention about what it's like in our community. Our community is a very open community. When we reach the end, or when we reach pandemic times and every kid at the elementary level all of a sudden had a laptop, and we did not need to have computer labs in our schools anymore, I used that space to create a fax program at Glenvar Elementary School to serve the kids in our community who have more significant special needs. It's something I'm extremely proud of. Our community has welcomed them. Our school has welcomed them. And we go over and above what we can do to try and help these kids along and help them grow just as much as all the other kids do. It has worked so well that we started that last year. It worked so well that this year we started a preschool fax program as well. And it has taken off. And it's just something that I'm really proud of how well our school has adopted that. They've welcomed those students. They've welcomed the staff that work with them. And we make it happen. And, that makes it a great place to live. It's a great place to teach. It's a great place to learn. I thank you for letting me lead the ship.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm sure there's some folks that would like to speak. Mike, would you like to start off?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, you can show by what's going on out there, the leadership and what participation that you have with all the organizations, that it's really you're doing the right thing and you're helping a lot of people that need it. And, when it gets down to it, we are a learning environment, but we can be learning environment, but also a community environment. And so you have really brought that to another level, and we sure appreciate you, all your staff, everyone at Glenvar. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
Looking for Tim.
I'm happy to go.
No, I'm just teasing. Thank you so much for coming out here. I learned something new tonight. I think it was a great program. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Franco and Ms. Bell for coming out. It was wonderful to hear you speak so highly of the school and the family sense of community that you have. I am most impressed, though, however, with Sophie. Great job, Sophie. I think you might be the next president of the United States someday. You're very well spoken. How old are you, honey? You're 10. Oh, my gosh. Well, you did a great job. Really fantastic job. Lastly, I want to say the VIP tours, that's really, or the VIP program, I hadn't heard of that before. That's really cool. I love it when we have families that can come in and our kids can showcase our schools, take pride, ownership, have an opportunity to show leadership to their parents. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And I did not know that you guys were running a FACS preschool program, so
Yeah.
that's really cool. That's
Yeah, we were the first, so,
Impressive.
and it's working very well. I'm very impressed with it, so,
Thank you for doing that.
yeah.
I would say ditto and ditto, but the communal aspect that, we feel that from the Benton community, and I can see that's well received in the Glenvar community.
Right,
That,
right.
to me, is that's why we should do everything in our power to never close one of these schools in a community, because that's the power that it breeds within that community.
Right.
And so it comes out amazingly. And Sophie, same thing Ms. Fashani said, you're amazing. You did a wonderful job. And so thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think I chose well to have
You did.
have Sophie come up there.
You did. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just reiterate what Mr. Greenway said. Sophie, you did an excellent job speaking. You represented your school very well. Mr. Johnson, thank you for everything you do at Glenvar Elementary. Glenvar is a family. Like Mr. Greenway talks about in Vinton all the time, Glenvar is a very tight-knit community. And I look at Miss Franco back there. I love Miss Franco. I love her husband. I love her children. So I had the opportunity to work with her at Glenvar, and both are just excellent teachers. And I can give you all kinds of stories about all of the things that she does for our community that goes way beyond just teaching in a classroom. So thank you, and thank you to your husband and our assistant principal. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to see what you're going to come up with next. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, item 6.01, report by Student Advisory Council, Miss Emma Rashuru.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Nicely. Early this month, our meeting on January 4th marked our very first SAC meeting of the new year, and we had the opportunity to invite another one of the incredible Roanoke County staff members, Miss Teresa Gibbons of College and Career Planning at the Burton Center for Arts and Technology, to present to us that evening. So Ms. Gibbons provided an enriching presentation to students regarding their educational and employment opportunities ahead of them. SAC members also received the opportunity to learn of the career and college planning resources that we as Roanoke County students have, some of which we were unaware of or had never personally used before, ultimately giving us the opportunity as SAC members to take this knowledge and share it with our fellow students across our own schools concerning their educational enrichment and how to use the resources the Roanoke County has to offer us. From Mrs. Gibbons' presentation is where I derived tonight's portion of student input, as in learning of ways to manage our own educational and career planning as a student. Students on the SAC shared ways in which they believe they would receive greater assistance amongst their own schools concerning the matter. What I learned from a consensus of our members is that they wished for greater one-on-one appointments with their guidance counselors in order to discuss more thoroughly the educational options that are unique to them, their interests, and their career desires, as most often students receive counseling within a class of roughly 20 students, and in this presentation is complete with facts that are suited for population parameters and not necessarily individual needs of our students. With our schools being a continuity amongst most students, not all students have the access to a parent or guardian with information regarding college planning, an older sibling to learn from the process, or so forth. So for some students, their school is the only place that they learn of these educational and career possibilities that many students have the opportunity to expand on and don't receive the training in their school systems to achieve this later in their life. Lastly, surpassing our meeting, some SAC members joined me for our first annual Student Leadership Conference planning meeting, in which we established our most integral details, and I look forward to each of you seeing that in person in April. As always, I thank each of you for your incredible support of the SAC, and I wish you all a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherwood. All right, moving on to item 7.01, hearing of citizens and delegations. So each citizen gets 3 minutes to speak, and we ask that you keep your comments polite and respectful and only address the chair. Welcome, Michelle Brooks. You are first. It's been a little while.
It has been. I've been, fall has just been saying for me.
How was Penn Forest?
Fantastic.
I love Penn Forest. I can't say enough positive things about it.
I do too.
I know. It's just such a great place. Okay. I just want to preface, I know I'm wearing my RCEA shirt, but I'm talking on my behalf tonight and not necessarily RCEA. I wanted to extend a thank you to the board and to central office for the new SRO at Penn Forest. It's a really big deal for me, and I've emailed you all about that, just from my background and how I feel better having a deputy, even part-time at the school. And especially after the shooting of a Newport News teacher recently, this just demonstrates the need for staff and students' safety at the elementary level. Elementary is usually overlooked. It's not seen as a safety concern, but it really, truly is for an SRO. So thank you for that. I want to share with you of different staff members and employees that they just love to come talk to me because they know I'll come talk to you. And there's some people who are not necessarily thrilled with the new Duo app that has been given to them to download on their phones. One teacher came to me and said, I cannot afford to upgrade my phone, and I don't have enough storage. And then she contacted the IT department, and she showed me everything that it was to go through to log on every day. And frankly, it was ridiculous. I just said, I'm not doing that. So I figured out, with the help of somebody else, that there is a way for it just to text you. So, I showed her how to do that. And I asked her, I said, how's that working out? She said, it's so easy. I wish that had been shown to me through her training. Then I had another employee say to me that they are already paying for additional storage on their phone, and they didn't want to have to also put on the Duo app, and they didn't know about the texting, so I showed them how to do that too. So that was really easy to do. But we know we've had 2 apps asked to be put on our phones in 3 months, okay? We think there's probably going to be more, most likely, because new apps come out every day. And in the future, I think it would be a good idea to just come and say, how are teachers going to feel about this? Instead of not necessarily assuming that we're all more than happy to put it on our phones, just, meet us in the middle, talk to us and say, we are asking you to put this on your personal devices, but please, what are your what do you think about that? Instead of just saying they can, or they can jump through all these hoops in order to, get the technology that they need. So I just wanted to thank you for giving me that time to speak and just give you a heads up as to what they're saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Miss Laura Bowman.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Nicely. At your last work session, it was reported that a survey on remaining ESSER funds was sent to parents, but it's my understanding many parents didn't receive the survey. Ms. Peterson did everything right. There were opportunities for public input on the expenditures, and I don't see any issues with how the funds are being spent. The Parent Advisory Council, now apparently under a new name, was formed at my request, and I was its inaugural chair. At times, I found it hard to get some of its representatives to distribute information. Parents still largely don't know of its existence and their ability to use it to have their voices heard. Here's what I believe would be helpful going forward. PTA, PTO presidents work closely with their school principals. They respect their authority and listen to them. Principals work closely with Dr. Nicely. They respect his authority and listen to him. Surveys and other information could be sent from Dr. Nicely and RCCPO's chair to presidents and principals, and they could be directed to send it out to parents, resulting in more accountability by presidents and principals to ensure parent communications are occurring. One of the biggest roles of a PTA or PTO is as a conduit for communication between schools and parents, and we all benefit when parents are kept in the loop. At the December school board meeting, there was acknowledgement of some successes the school board and RCPS have had. Some good progress has been made on school construction and maintenance issues, and I'm grateful for everyone's hard work. It's my understanding there is widespread disagreement with the assertion that the media selection policy has been a success. Now that we're just past the halfway mark in the school year, it's time for a public report on the policy. Here's a sampling of things that should be included in the report. How much each librarian is being paid to exclusively read books. How reading every word of every new book they'd like to order has impacted their ability to do the other parts of their jobs. What has fallen through the cracks. An accounting of others RCPS has hired to exclusively read library books and its cost to taxpayers. All feedback RCPS has received from Mrs. Balsley and the librarians since the policy took effect. The number of non-contracted hours each librarian is spending reading books because they don't want to neglect their other duties and in turn the students they serve. The number of pornographic materials not ordered as compared to previous years. Education in America is built upon unpaid educator overtime. A sure way to burn faculty out and show disrespect for them is to make them work for free, taking time away from their other obligations and the people and activities that bring happiness to their lives. That's what's occurring under this policy. At a time when we're suffering from a qualified staffing shortage in our public schools, it's incumbent upon leadership to show respect for and listen to our professional educators. If there are issues with the policy should be amended. That's what school board members said would happen when the policy was adopted. Thank you in advance for this report due to us, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have a motion for approval of consent
Mr.
agenda.
Chairman, I recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Fajani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Item 9.01, request approval of the 2024 to 2033 capital improvement plan. Mrs. Susan Peterson. Welcome, Mrs. Peterson.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. During the January 5th work session, I presented the 2024-2033 capital improvement plan, also known as the CIP. The CIP is an integral part of the budgeting process as it allows the school division to plan for long-term capital needs. The 2024 column will become our capital project budget for next year, while the out years are a roadmap of upcoming projects and are refined each year based on current estimates and economic factors. Although we discussed this at the last work session, I would like to summarize the updates from the current year plan. Under funding, we allocated $2 million. Do you have that pulled up? Cool. We allocated $2 million of major capital reserves to the 2024 Burton project. In addition, we updated the county allocation for future bonds to reflect the $80 million in 2025 and $20 million going forward beginning in 2027. All of this is based on the county guidance. Under project costs, we updated the cost for Burton to reflect the RRMM cost estimate in addition to the purchase of the land. And we updated the remaining school costs based on the $400 per square foot cost based on recent RRMM estimates. The CIP was reviewed with you at the last work session, and what I'm presenting tonight does have one update that I would like to review as well. We added the county allocation for future bonds in fiscal year 2033, which was inadvertently left off of the prior report. This was allocated to the Northside Middle and Glenvar Elementary projects. This update does reduce the estimated fiscal year for the Northside Middle and the Hidden Valley Middle by a year, and it reduces the year for Burlington Elementary and Penn Forest Elementary by 2 years. Once the report is approved by the school board, we will present it to or provide it to the county so they can include it in their countywide CIP. I can answer any questions if you have them.
Yes. So you're asking us to approve these. And if we approve them, we are consenting that we agree with the proposals we've got here. Well, I mean, we're agreeing with the list of schools in the progression. We're agreeing that the funding is set that way now. What I guess I'm trying to differentiate is if I agree with this, I'm not agreeing with the funding we're getting,
I do not,
you
I do not think that your agreement of this plan necessitates an agreement with, or non-agreement with the county on how they are funding us. The plan is we have to base the plan off of funding that we're told will happen, or we will be allowed to have. And so the plan itself is our best actual estimate of how we can fund all of the future schools.
So under this CIP, we would start BCAT in 2025, not even 2024.
Remember, 2025 covers July 1 of 2024
So it would start July of 20.
through June 30th of 2025.
Cundiff and Cove would start in July of 29, I'm assuming.
Correct,
So it's a 2030 project date,
correct.
which pushes us out another 6 years. And guess what? We get to Penn Forest, Mike, in 2040. Well, you should be thrilled. That's only,
Well, we cutting 2 years off, right?
oh yeah, that's amazing. You know, I hope your grandkids will be married by then.
Great grandkids.
Okay, great grandkids.
No,
So,
I'm just kidding.
okay, I just want, you know, obviously I have reservations, hiccups, everything about this. But given this is the funding we've got right now, I just absolutely don't agree with the funding where we're at right now. We can do better, and we've shown them a path to do better. And I'll speak to that later. I'm just not sure what I'm approving here. I'm approving basically where we're at, I guess, with what they're offering.
Pretty much.
But still, I don't agree with it. So I agree with what we've given, but I don't agree with the money. Okay. I don't think that helps me a whole lot, but nonetheless, that's where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and yes, ideal, but I understand your point about putting forward what we have as a CIP. For those, we went over this in our work session. So, I mean, we did go over.
We didn't go over, well, we went over the first sheet, I guess, but
Yeah. But I mean, but what you presented us, so, we have to have a CIP, but even though if we don't agree with the time frame or how it's getting funded, but usually we put forward a CIP so that we can continue with our process of funding projects. I understand Mr. Greenway's concern, and I think that that's something that we'll continue to address. Whether, where we'll get with that, I don't know, but, I think that we need to continually address how we can move these back, get these projects done, in a timely manner.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw,
No comment.
Mr. Chairman, just one final thought on this. So what we're saying is BCAT's going to cost us $93 million. And essentially what the Board of Supervisors are giving us is $60 million, because they would give us the 17 as a part of the CIP funding anyway, right? So they're underfunding BCAT by $30 million. When we started this process, we said, through CIP, we needed the Board of Supervisors to fund BCAT. Because we couldn't handle it with the current CIP debt structure. And so I just want to clarify that basically BCAT's costing us somewhere in the neighborhood of $93 million. We may be able to bring that down some. We're willing to, to work together with the Board of Supervisors. But right now they're funding $63 million. That's the way I take it. 17 of that would have been school construction. We don't have that capacity to build that school. We asked them. So I just want to make that clear. This is largely where our funding is falling short. And this is one of the few economic drivers we've seen in the county in the last decade. We're serving this up on a silver platter. So hopefully we can work on the funding, but I'll speak to that later. Thank you. I appreciate what you're giving us.
So essentially, this is not locking us into anything. This is just based off of what the current funding that has been offered.
Correct.
Good.
And in the past, we have brought revisions for your approval. Is that me? Oh, do you need here? Oh, I can't move it.
That probably actually helped, so it's okay. Keep going.
Sorry.
Do I hear a motion to pass this under the, I guess, the understanding of this does not lock us in. This is just based off of what we know.
Well, we gotta have some kind of direction to our finance person.
Well, do we? I have reservation because their CIP has 31 million of unidentified projects, right?
I have not looked at their CIP.
Well, that's the case. So, and $12 or $13 million library for Hollins. So, do we? I'll neither make the motion or second. I'm not sure if I'll vote for or against, but, and I'm not, you've done an awesome, I think that. But I have a little bit of hiccup that we're sending that over there with our blessing. That's kind of what I see.
When is the deadline for this? Is there a deadline?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Do we have a little bit of time if we do?
I can't remember what the county's calendar is. So I don't know.
Or is this just a procedure?
And with us only having monthly meetings, I imagine they would want it before the next. Typically, we do approve it in January to give it to them so that they can proceed with their process.
Is this something you could give them and tell them, we haven't approved this yet, but get us a date? I'm just asking the questions, but.
I mean, sure, if that's what you want to do, sure.
I'm just one person.
So procedurally,
Yeah, where are we gonna be if we delay it? I mean, are we gonna be any better off if we delay it? I don't know.
We're certainly not going to get what we don't ask for.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, where are we gonna be if we didn't present a CIP, if we don't present it in January? I'm just saying, are we gonna buy us anything if we're delayed? That's all I'm saying.
So when I came on the board, our first board meeting, we had a 10-year CIP. I can't remember the specifics. 10-year CIP, and we had a $30 million project for Cave Spring High School. And we had, I think it's a $70 million unidentified, which I couldn't believe we took over there, but anyway, we did. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. Dr. Nicely, do you have any words of wisdom or?
Yeah, typically, our CIPs in the past have been like a 10-year projection, and that's all it is. It's a projection, like you said, based on what we know now. What we know can change, and it's really saying, based on the information that we have, here's a plan about how we, would use it over the next 10 years. This one goes beyond 10 years just because of the action we took back in 2019, where we did the study to say these were the next schools that were our priorities, and so that's why you see all those schools included. There's no reason why you have to go beyond the 10 years. But those schools are included based on what you did in 2019, agreeing that this was the new, list of priorities.
I think,
Even in terms of the proposed construction costs and all of those kinds of things, that's our best numbers now, right, which could change. I mean, they can go down, especially the ones coming up close, the CTE Center, the elementary schools. But that's what's plugged in now because that's the only concrete information we have as of today.
Mr. Chairman, this is just a thought, guys, y'all weigh in. We're getting ready to send this over. I would say let's ask Ms. Peterson if she would bring us back when it has to be approved and just give us just a little bit more time for thought.
Yeah, I just guess I'm saying, what are we gonna buy? What, if we extend the time, what are we gonna get from that? I mean, when we come back, let's say 2 weeks or whatever it may be, because we have a work session the 1st of February, 2nd of February, whatever the date is. Anyway, I just don't know what are we gonna change? What will we change? I just don't know.
Will you make the motion?
I mean, it's fine.
Well,
I'll make it if that's what we need to do.
Well, you better.
I'll make the motion.
well, hold on a second. Well, you've already made the motion.
Well, I said I'll make it if you,
I just want to reiterate, Dr. Nicely said that this is essentially not, I understand what it looks like, but it's not locking us into something.
Not binding.
And that's my fear is I would like to work together with the Board of Supervisors. They control the purse strings. It's up to them to answer their constituents when it comes to debt loads and what they're willing to spend. So we've got a lot of work to do together, and we've got to do it together because if we're not working together, we're just going to be at a standstill. So I don't want to do anything disrespectful. However, I would like to have some constructive conversations with their board in order to figure out how we can speed up the process of some of our aging infrastructure. So I don't know if we don't provide them with something, if that's a good look, and if it's not binding, okay.
It may help you to adopt it now and use it as your discussions are adopted. CIP looks like this, and we would have further discussions. Because, like Dr. Nicely said, this is a planning tool, and we have brought to you, I honestly think every year I've been the Director of Finance, we have revised this before the final budget was ever adopted. So I would not be shocked for you to adopt it today and revise it next month.
I would add, we still do not have those grant applications coming out from VDOE. As of last week when I was in Richmond, it's
That's a shocker.
well, I'm just saying, but it's something that is still expected soon. I would think it'd be to our advantage, to have these things in place. In fact, that's one of the scoring criteria is these things would be on your adopted CIP. I would just throw that in for extra information. That is something that we'll need for that.
and when do you expect it?
Listen, in August, I was
you know.
told October or September, October. So last I heard was
Is this that
late January or
magical-
February. So
Is that magical fairy dust money that we're going to get from the state? Okay, just making sure.
So we don't know.
Going back, we do have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Ms. Fajani?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
For you, Phil, I'll do it. Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson, and I'm sorry for you having to answer a lot of questions there.
Yeah, thank you.
You do an excellent job, and I know you have a lot of stress on you.
And we put more.
And we
Yeah,
put
I was
more.
gonna say,
So
might need a drink after that.
greatly appreciate everything you do for us. I know your work doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. Thank you. All right,
Come
now-
on up, Jim.
We thought it was going to be bad following Sophie. I mean, geez, I get to follow Susan.
Yours
I'm
will be a
not
piece
sure.
of cake.
I know. Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Nicely, bring to you tonight policy 5.18, military leave and benefits. The Code of Virginia 44-93 changed from providing up to 15 days to up to 22 days of military leave per year. Staff recommends we just update our policy to reflect that code.
I'll go quick, but this will provide, if you're out on military leave, you'll get pay. You won't get hurt by anything that you're going.
Up to
Even if
21
you-
days now,
Even
correct.
if you get military pay, you still get this pay,
That's correct.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And we did that at Norfolk Southern, so yeah, it's a great thing.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. 9.03, Resolution for Global Day of Unplugging. Dr. Jessica McClung.
Good evening. So when the National Day of Unplugging awareness campaign started back in 2009, there really wasn't a lot of research out there, and it was just an awareness. However, now we have a ton of research, and what started as National Day of Unplugging is now Global Day of Unplugging. So I'm going to share with you all the resolution for the Global Day of Unplugging for Roanoke County Schools. Whereas the National Academy of Pediatrics stated in a 2020 study that on average, children ages 8 through 12 in the U.S. spend 4 to 6 hours a day watching or using smartphone screens, while teens spend up to 9 hours per day. And whereas a 2021 Pew Research Center study found that about 3 in 10 adults in the U.S. say they're almost constantly online. And whereas 6 out of 10 adults are concerned about the influence technology has on their relationship with their children, and nearly 1 of 4 wish they had more information about technology and parenting, according to a professor at Utah State. And whereas the National Sleep Foundation and other experts are becoming increasingly concerned about the effects of blue light from these electronic devices in the sleep-wake cycle. An estimated 2 in 3 teenagers regularly sleep less than the recommended amount, and screen time may be responsible for sleep deprivation or other problems. And whereas excessive use of screens has resulted in conditions such as computer vision syndrome or digital eye strain, which cause blurred vision, dry eyes, and neck and shoulder pain. And I can attest to that since I had to put this in large font to say tonight. And whereas a recent study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology Applied found that reductions in smartphone usage as little as 1 hour per day can make a noticeable difference in the mental health of smartphone users, especially fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety, increased physical activity, and overall healthier living. And whereas the Global Day of Unplugging, a global movement to bring awareness to the long-term impact of smartphone use on mental health and physical health, will be held from sundown March 3rd through sundown March 4th, 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Roanoke County School Board supports the Global Day of Unplugging and encourages students, staff, and the community to participate in unplugging on March 3rd through 4th. To learn more about the impacts of long-term use of smartphones, the benefits of reducing smartphone use, and to consider non-technology related activities for this day. Signed this 19th day of January 2023. And I hope everyone supports this because I think it's a great initiative.
Thank you, Dr. McClung. I'll make the motion that we accept what you just read. All of it.
I second.
Madam Clerk?
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ray?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
Jessica, thank you for working on that. I just want to express my thanks to my school board and central office for supporting this. I think it's important. I remember that day that we were here talking about it, and I'm glad that we actually took charge and are doing this. I think it's important for everybody to create more awareness about your mental health, what cell phones do to us and rule our lives on a daily basis. And of course, I think this is going to trickle down to not only our students, but above and beyond to our families. You know, I love when you go to Chick-fil-A and you put your phone in the bucket. I hate when I go and I see everybody on their phone and no one's talking to each other. So let's hope that it creates more of a conversation piece and lets people bring some awareness to the amount of usage that they're having on their cell phones. So thank you.
All right, we don't have anything listed in information agenda, so we'll move on to the report by Superintendent. Dr. Nicely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, first of all, we've excited to kick off our second semester and, of course, the 2023 calendar year. We want to thank the school board for not only passing the resolution to promote awareness of the Global Unplugged Day, but also, as was discussed in the last work session and was approved this evening in the consent agenda, but the new cell phone policy, which will really help our students and teachers have better focus during class. The biggest piece of that is just the new policy, and thank you for the school board supporting what the teachers have said to us in terms of the feedback that they really think it's an issue, especially in our high school classes where they're just out. So with the new policy, students would be expected to have those off or airplane mode during class, which will help with learning and the focus there. So thank you for supporting that. Got to attend our first since 2017 all-county band concert last week, and it was amazing, the students and what they're learning and performing, and just thank Mr. Elliott for putting that together and all of our band and music teachers for supporting that. We'll do all-county choir concert next year. Those are done in alternative years. Just a reminder, the General Assembly is meeting in a short session and, of course, working on the state budget and amendments, and there's all kinds of legislation. I think they said there's just as many bills, at least on the education side, this year in the short session that there was last year in the long session. So we're keeping an eye on things that are happening in Richmond that impact our schools. Again, thank you to all of our teachers, our staff. I won't list everybody, but we have so many amazing people, over 2,000 employees who make this happen, and just very proud of the work that they all do and that our students do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicely. Move on to reports and inquiries of board members. Mr. Ray, would you like to go first?
If you like. I have nothing to report, but I'm going to the Northside K-Spring game tonight, and we'll see. We'll see what happens if I can find a seat. And also, Mr. Chairman, we have a young man in the audience. I don't know if they're here for any particular reason, for maybe Boy Scouts or anything. Okay, just want to make sure that we'd recognize. So, welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ray, Ms. Vashani.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I just want to thank Glenvar for coming on out. It was a great spotlight. I enjoyed hearing about your school. I want to thank Ms. Bowman for her thoughts on the survey. I think that's actually an excellent idea. Surveys are important. Transparency is important, especially when it comes to governing, and we need to know what our stakeholders think and how they feel, and surveys are a way for us to capture that data. I had some concerns as well that the survey participation was rather low. I do think that it represented what was with the consensus for most of the people, but I do think that's an excellent idea. In regards to the Duo app, I can tell you I don't know much about that. I'm not sure as a school board we really make too many assumptions in terms of what these apps are doing. We're trying to promote more safety in our schools, and I hope you understand that. Yeah, there's risks, benefits. I'm sure it is an ask. You don't have to do it. You're not required to. We're just glad that you do. So we want the best for our teachers. We want the best for our schools. We want the best for our staff. And at the end of the day, I hope it's not too much of an ask. I understand data usage is important, but hopefully you found a workaround. But thank you for your thoughts as well. And the Student Advisory Council, thank you for all you're doing. I've had some thoughts about the career planning myself. I think we could streamline that a little bit better. I know the counselors are pretty busy with the one-on-one. It's really hard for kids who don't have the support, maybe of the families that they need. And I like to see us really consider a video series where we have our mass comm students kind of film some things about what's going on in terms of careers, either the technological side of it and the CTE, or what your choices might be for other kids who might maybe do a 2-year program or perhaps go on to college. So we can streamline and we can do better. And we have great technology at our fingertips now, and students like to learn through technology and videos. So thank you for your suggestions. Thank you for all your work you do.
Ms. Vashani. Mr. Greenway?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to speak to two issues which have been in the forefront of our discussions. First, I'd like to say if, instead of some of these articles we read in Roanoke Times, if they would listen to these the subjects for SROs and school funding, I think they have some very positive, very good articles they could provide for our citizens in Roanoke County. On the SRO subject, to my knowledge, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, we've still got the 8, 2 that are part-time that are provided by the sheriff's office, 6 that we've funded for this year, and still not one from Roanoke County, from the Board of Supervisors or the Police Department. Am I correct? So we are taking education funds. I just want to reiterate this every time I get a chance. We are taking education funds and we are putting SROs in half of our elementary schools, half of them. So it's, we see the benefit, we see the need, we see the reason to do it, and we hope that they, will get on board and fund that for us as a part of public safety instead of the schools doing this as a part of school safety. It should be a public safety issue. Last, we have, and let me say on the others, the school funding, we have developed a worksheet of facts now that will tell us how we've gotten here for the school funding for BCAT and the 2 elementary schools. And so we'll start beating that drum a little bit and sharing that with folks and starting to try and get the funding for BCAT and the 2 elementary schools in line. We're going to give some, because we've been told the elementary schools would cost a little more than what we had originally planned. BCAT's coming in about, well, it really probably came in about 23 million more, but now we're down to like 13 million more than we had projected. So we're willing to try and bring that down into the 80 million range. We're willing to take the elementary schools down to the 30 million range when we've been told 38 and 33 or 35. So we're willing to give, we're willing to make concessions, we're willing to work with the Board of Supervisors on this fund. Right now, they've offered somewhere in the neighborhood of 119 million. We've asked that they put the Hollins Library back to 2029, or they've brought it to 2027. Give us that year of funding with the Hollins Library being 10 million that they could give to us, and maybe take the 2 million that would be left on there. And I'm rambling, but I've got it down concise in our summary. The 10 million from the Hollins Library, give that to the schools for funding, because I think everybody in this environment would agree we need schools. Libraries are changing, are in an evolution of change from the way people use them, and we've got data to prove that. And I'll share that in just a second. And we're asking them, they've got 31 million of unidentified CIP projects. So if they're not important enough to have identified projects, we're asking for 11 million of that, less than 1/3 of those unidentified projects, to give us 140 million, and we can start the process of getting BCAT and those 2 elementary schools, open concept, open elementary schools that were built in 1971 and 72, that we can get those started to be rectified and kids put in classrooms and not talking over. It works. Our principals in those 2 locations are amazing. Our staff in those 2 locations are amazing. But it's time. It's well past time. They're the last 2 that we think are in the state. So we want to get that. We want to get that done as soon as possible. 2030 is just an absolute kick in the teeth. It should be 2023 in my mind, but if we have to wait till 24 or 25, I'm willing to do that, but not 2030. And then that just takes all the other projects, as we were kidding that Penn Forest, hopes one of us or two of us would still be around to see that opportunity for that to be renovated. But to the library point, to further my point on libraries, and I don't know how they identify these numbers. I don't know if they call them individuals that walk into the library or is it just library? Is it, folks coming in to use the internet? I don't know. But I know that we've got numbers here that support. We've got 6 libraries, public libraries now. And the usage has went down on most of those in the neighborhood of from 100%, let's call 2017, 100% to 2022. My guess, I haven't just got this, Mr. Terry helped me print this and give it to the board members, and so small you can't see it. So that's the way they sent it, but on the computer screen, it's about 65% usage now from where it was 5 or 6 years ago. So people are not using public libraries like they used to, which we figure, with Google and cell phones and, the way you have to get to data today, the kids are using it differently. So, to take money to fund a library at this time when we need these schools done, to me, is just unimaginable. So hopefully.
Tim, attendance has dropped by 30%.
35%.
35%.
Somewhere, I'm just gauging that. We've got 6 libraries, one of which gets usage of about 7,400 people a year. They're asking us to close schools. I'm not saying, that they're not important, but I think we can consolidate and make them, if they're asking us to close schools, which I wouldn't be in favor of anywhere, I think you got to look in your own backyard, and why would you fund a library? So at this time, and as just laid out. So thank everyone who who had contributions to this and that approved it, and we tried to just be factual. And again, like I said, I'll be sharing this more as we go forward. But it looks like to me we need approximately $21 million more funding to make us whole. And we can do it, and we can get there. And if anybody saw their property assessments, I'm not going into that, but this can be done. SROs should just be a given in our schools, child safety, and the school funding. We've got to get it done. So, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. The one point that you made to me, I thought, which was a very valid point, was in terms of the service of a library, how much it would, the outreach versus the service of the schools. How many people do we touch from a library versus how many families and children do we touch out of our schools?
Absolutely, and I wish you could quantify that because I think we all know the answer.
Oh, the answer is huge. I mean, it's
Huge
exponential.
schools and a little lower. Again, I'm not diminishing live. I don't want everybody to come back and say, "Gosh, he's saying, libraries and are not needed and they're not important." That's not what I'm saying at all. I think the way we have constructed the usage of libraries now, and I'll use mine in Vinton. I'm not a huge proponent of the one in Vinton. They do some very good things, and they do have wonderful programs. It's not that at all. I just think the usage, the evolution of libraries has changed tremendously. And going to get books off shelves, I think we still need to learn that, and the research component is huge, but I think it's changed. And for us not to recognize that change and evolution is taking place is just to be covering our eyes. So we'll hear more about this as we move forward. I hope the Board of Supervisors says, look, we'll find the $21 million, let's move on and get past this and be done. And then maybe we can start the process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think I picked a very hard time to be the chair. No wonder you guys easily voted me in there. I'm just kidding.
Well, welcome to the chairmanship.
So, as you can see, there are a lot of tough things that we're facing, and it's my desire to work with the Board of Supervisors to come up with some resolutions to this. Our infrastructure is in dire need, and I think that we can all come together as a community and hopefully between both boards to figure out some constructive ways to take care of our issues with our SROs as well. We've talked about that a lot, and we are starting a new year, and we're getting close to July where we'll be done, and then we're going to have to identify some funding for these 6 part-time SROs. And I definitely think, and we've written a letter, is it 2 times, Dr. Nicely? We've written a letter about the SROs and requests for funding. And thus far, they have essentially not committed to anything. So it's not a high cost. I don't understand why they're not wanting to have some conversations about that. Like the citizen spoke tonight, the teacher. It's imperative that we have these guys in our schools. Our children's safety and our staff, it's paramount. And these guys are doing an excellent job. We've got to find the funding. It shouldn't come out of education budget. Our children today are a lot more in need of services than they were years ago. I think we can easily show documentation of that. So my hope is we can all work together in a positive manner to figure out these problems. I don't think fighting back and forth is going to do any good, and I don't think that that's what the public put me in this office to do. So we're going to figure it out, like Mr. Greenway said, hopefully sooner than later. But thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I'd like to recognize Miss Edie York here. She's pulling double duty tonight. Miss Robertson couldn't be here, so thank you, Edie, for taking care of us tonight. And everybody have a great night. Meeting adjourned.